Before we get into this, you're probably wondering, can you travel to North Korea? Believe it or not, yes. North Korea might not grant you the travel visa, and for you Americans watching, the US government highly discourages traveling there and will only let you go with permission from the US State Department. But generally speaking, everybody else watching this right now can travel to North Korea. Once you land in North Korea, your travel itinerary will be heavily controlled. Like, so controlled that the regime will only let you see what they want you to see, and it's a very bad idea to try to strike out on your own. Tourists have been detained for just slightly venturing off the guided tour, and it's not something you really want to test, for sure. Speaking of, every group is accompanied by 2 high-status North Korean guides. While they're not spies in the technical sense, they are spies in every other sense. The government can't control everything these guides say to tour groups, but there is an official line they're supposed to stick to, and not doing so could be very dangerous for them. And if you're doing something against the rules, you can guarantee being snitched on. Tourists have been detained in the past for minor infractions, such as not declaring a book they brought with them from home.
I have made the worst mistake of my life.
That was Otto Warmbier, the American citizen who was convicted of stealing a poster in a hotel and sentenced to 15 years hard labor, and subsequently died. His treatment led directly to the US ban on traveling to North Korea. You can still go in via other ways, but if you go and get arrested, don't expect the US to get you out of trouble. To disrespect the Kims, Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, or the present Kim Jong-un, even accidentally, can mean a long prison term or even death. Even creasing a piece of paper with an image of one of the Kims on it is a major sign of disrespect for the regime. Considering that images of the various men are literally everywhere, this gives the population ample opportunities to be arrested for the tiniest mistake. It doesn't matter how important you are either. In 2016, Kim Jong-un executed his deputy premier, Kim Yong-jin. This was not that shocking, but even by North Korean standards, this one is a bit dicey. It turns out that the deputy premier had sat in a disrespectful way during a meeting. It seems he was slouching. Being executed for bad posture is pretty extreme, even for North Korea. According to the US State Department, technically North Korea has freedom of religion. Just like technically North Korea is a democracy because their official name is the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. Since the regime gets to decide if any rule has been broken, any proselytizing, meaning trying to convert someone's beliefs, is incredibly dangerous. You are allowed to bring a personal Bible into the country, but it must be declared and you cannot so much as show it to a citizen of North Korea. Needless to say, that hasn't stopped people trying, and proselytizing is a great way to get thrown into a labor camp there. The US State Department says that some churches do exist in the country, but their activities are closely watched by the government. Allegedly, they are mostly there for tourists to visit, which allows the regime to prove there is religious freedom in the country. In reality, people are expected to snitch on anyone they think is practicing a religion in secret, including their own family members. It's not illegal to own a phone or make calls in North Korea, but if you try to contact the outside world, that is a very different story. This applies especially for North Korean citizens. In fact, for most people there, it's not even possible. Technically, it's not the international calls themselves that are against the law, but the fact that it requires a cell phone or SIM card smuggled in from China. This allows anyone close enough to the Chinese border to connect to their telecom system and get around the block on international dialing in North Korea. The biggest concern for the regime seems to be that family members will contact relatives who have escaped to China or South Korea. Escaping North Korea is difficult and dangerous, so calling loved ones is probably the only way they will ever speak to them again. In one incident in 2023, a woman was caught making a call to one of her children who had fled North Korea, according to Radio Free Asia. Not only was she immediately arrested, but at least 3 family members who were not at all involved with the call were also dragged from their home. Given North Korea's socio-political structure, it's no surprise that when Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il eventually died, their loyal subjects were forced to mourn the late dictator's passings. In 2021, the regime ordered North Koreans to mourn for 11 days on the 10-year anniversary of Kim Jong-il's death. If you're thinking, wow, that's weird, the weird part is they added an extra day. You see, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il's deaths are mourned every year, generally 7 and 10 days each. If your birthday happens to fall in one of those time frames, tough luck. No balloons or birthday cake for you, just infinite sadness. In 2021, a man smuggled the international South Korean hit series Squid Game into North Korea. After he was caught, he was sentenced to death, while the punishment for the 7 students who watched the show ranged from life imprisonment to years of hard labor.
Can you really do this alone? I need you.
In 2024, North Korea banned several shows and films from China, even though they consider that country an ally, and up until that point, their media had never been considered a threat to the regime. But it didn't stop there. North Korea has even been known to ban their own films. The 2024 film 72 Hours was a surprisingly high-quality production that parodied the North's version of the beginning of the Korean War. It became a relative blockbuster in the country, only to be banned 5 months later. Students and officials who were caught watching it after that were kicked out of school or lost their jobs, and one was sentenced to hard labor. Watching anything there is no jam. You know what else is no jam? Saying no jam. And forgive me for my pronunciation, I don't speak Korean. Anyway, no jam is slang in Korea for calling something no fun. Using South Korean slang is strictly prohibited. This is no small crime either. After the Pyongyang Cultural Language Protection Act was passed in 2023, even being accused of influencing someone else to use a South Korean phrase can result in punishment, and smugglers of South Korean media can be executed. Jam, and no jam is a shortened version of the word fun. The no is, well, you guessed it, from the English. Using English, especially Americanisms, those are a big no-no. Police can even stop people on the street to make sure their text messages do not include any illegal phrases. In 2023, 20 young athletes who were caught on video using banned South Korean words were publicly shamed and sentenced to 3 to 5 years of hard labor. And those rules apply to everyone, no exceptions. Well, some exception. While speaking to flood victims in 2024, Kim Jong-un used multiple words and phrases that are only common in South Korea.
It's good to be the king.
Karaoke might not seem like a sneaky way for foreign countries to bring down the North Korean dictatorship, but apparently it is. Karaoke is originally Japanese and not South Korean, and that also means it's from an old enemy as well as being just a wee bit too capitalistic. Or at least it has been since 2024, when sources told Radio Free Asia that the formerly popular pastime was suddenly banned. Apparently, the reason for the unexpected ban was a single incident where some workers ditched their assignments to go eat at a karaoke restaurant. For that, all similar restaurants were forced to shutter, not just get rid of their karaoke machines. The owners of the eateries were also informed they would never be allowed to operate any kind of restaurant again. North Koreans love music. They have no choice, considering that in Pyongyang they are woken up by the same song every morning, patriotic anthem, Where Are You, Dear General? If you're thinking Phil Connors and Groundhog Day, you're not too far off. Other propaganda songs are on repeat almost as often, like the 2024 banger that the country was reportedly getting really sick of hearing, Friendly Father. Obviously, all outside music is banned, so no K-pop, forget about being a North Korean Swiftie, and even previously allowed South Korean music, like Kim Jong-il's favorite singer, is no longer allowed. The North Korean regime also sometimes bans its own music. Many propaganda songs in the country refer to the goal of being reunified with South Korea, but in 2024, the regime decided reunification was bad, so that meant that more than 100 of those patriotic songs were banned. One of the things you can't buy in North Korea are jeans. They are seen as indicative of the decadence of the capitalist West. You start wearing jeans, and the next thing you know, you're jamming out to K-pop and saying no jam. But that's just the beginning of the many fashion do's and don'ts that North Koreans are forced to deal with. Mainly don'ts. In fact, all don'ts. Thanks to the rejection of reactionary thought and culture law, any number of popular and common clothing choices are considered harmful to the North Korean regime. These include sleeveless shirts and transparent sleeves. Shorts are allowed for men, but women have a length restriction if they wear them. The garments cannot be above the knee. For men, the biggest no-no is trying to look like Kim Jong-un, in particular by paying homage to his wide trousers and leather trench coat. Hair dye is forbidden, as are specific styles of cut for both men and women. Women cannot have hair below their waists, and you can forget rocking a Rachel or a butterfly cut. They are allowed this sort of permy look like the one Dolly Parton had in 9 to 5, so there's that. As for men, they cannot copy Kim Jong-un's haircut, so that's one positive at least. Even fashion that is allowed can be done wrong. Carrying a large bag is fine as long as you hold it in both hands. Using a shoulder strap is considered a South Korean way of lugging things around. So, you still want to visit the Hermit Kingdom? Have you been? Leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of North Korea.